Yeah.
We are on. So welcome to the fifth of our discussions Q&As. I'm joined today by our commercial bagger, Matty Dawes.
You all right?
First things first, I'm going to ask you a few questions that I've lined up, and then we'll move on to the questions that hopefully everybody's going to start sending in. Everybody who's watching, if you can, send your questions in for Matty, whether it's F1 fishing, what he's been up to, things that you want him to do on his YouTube channel, whatever that may be. Matty's here to answer them. So first things first, we will ask, where did it all start for you? Have you always been an angler, or how did you get into fishing?
It all started with my dad, to be fair. He's quite keen match angler, and back in the day when there's loads of team fishing, he fished for Airbus Angling Club. A few different ones. It was like, I think it was the Ermine, Vauxhalls, and round Chesterways there was a big team side of it. There was, I think, tackle locker, rod and reel of Vauxhalls. This is before my time, but that's the background my dad had, and I used to go because I just enjoy every sport basically. In school, did everything: basketball, cricket, football, anything I could, athletics, stuff like that. And I used to go with my dad fishing, and then I was playing football regular, and I got injured and I couldn't play. So I went fishing a little bit more, and then that's it. It just took over that side of it. So like say I fished from like 4 years old up to 14. But as from that 14, that's when I really started going every weekend, getting obsessed with it, going to the shows it used to be on, fishing through the ice. I remember going there, but I'd find it'll melt in a minute, and it was just covered in ice, and I just sat there all day waiting because it wasn't gonna, I didn't know it's not going to defrost and little things like that. And then it just obviously got involved with the Airbus Club with my dad, started going more and more with them, and it just takes you hold you, doesn't it? You just get it, get the bug, and just keep going. That's what
you mentioned there, like different sports that you were in. You still now you play five-a-side football, don't you? But it took an injury playing football to sort of make you focus on fishing. And is that part of like a bit of an obsessive personality that you want to be the best at what you're doing, and that injury
I think
gave you more time to go fishing, and you just put your mind to it then?
Yeah, I think like whatever I do, I have to try and. I don't know. I've got an obsessive. I have to try and be the best. It's in me. I don't know why. So it's like when we used to play football, got injured, and our team was folding, and my mate was going to play for someone else, and I was like, I couldn't go. And then I think he had trials at Airbus and stuff like that, and I couldn't go. And I just thought, you know what? It's not going to happen. It's horrible, but it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to get in. I was too late to the party, basically. And then I feel in my junior fishing, I was too late to the party there as well, because I was 14. And because my dad fished so much, he was always fishing Airbus Nationals, Airbus matches. He did take me fishing, but he always went to his matches. Yeah. So my mum used to take me. I went to Western Puddles Junior Festival. And I think it's come from my dad when he said to me one time, if he asked me, he'd laugh. He's like, you won't win that. And that's the worst thing you could say to me, because I'm like, right, I will win that and prove you wrong. And I won that match, actually. And I texted him, I've won. And he just put, well done. Like, that was it. It just makes me like, right, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And
but is that his way of sort of spurring you on?
Yeah.
Is it like a wind up thing where, you've got no chance, and then you're
it's
just
the best way I learn, basically, I think. And he obviously knows that, and the way he's taught me, and he's probably had it in from my granddad, but I don't like the softly, oh, that's right. Say if I was coaching someone, and I don't do it in a harsh way, but instead of going, oh, that was okay, mate, I'm like, nah, it's crap. Like, do it again.
Yeah.
Right, come on, look, this is what you did wrong. Do it again that way. Don't forget about that way. You've done it wrong, start again. So it's like when I was chefing, I didn't start like people, when I was chefing, I didn't start in like a cafe. I started nearly a Michelin star restaurant, and it was like,
in at the deep end.
Yeah, in at the deep end, got the bug for it, and then obviously I don't want to do that anymore. But that was when I did that. It was like you say, you want to be the best at it. I just think, just the personality of it, you just grabs you, and you just want to be. I think competitiveness as well. Like anything, we used to go. I think probably remember Cheshire fishing.
Yeah.
Pool 5. There was 4 of us from school, and I'd always want to beat him.
Like at the venue.
Yeah,
It was
it's
like a
class
little
that.
puddle, wasn't it? But full of fish, just absolutely full of fish. Wasn't
You used to try and get there early. Do you remember the corner peg with a high bank? As you just come down,
it? Yeah, yeah.
that's where you can catch on dog biscuits there as well. As a crafty little tactic you used to do in the afternoon, just ping a few of them in. But it's, I don't know, I just always want to win. But over the years, I have been bad for like trying to learn how to take losing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was a festival we had at Broneffian one time with the club, and I won the my section first 2 days, so I could have won the festival, and I got beat. And I literally threw my gear, and my dad was like, "What are you doing?" It's like you need to learn from that. And now, if I take defeat, I just like think, right, well done, say well done to the winner.
Yeah.
Look back at your fishing and think, right, I've done this wrong. I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
Or I wasn't fishing, or sometimes you just didn't draw enough well. That's the aim of the game. Like Pole Masters, I think I had a run 2 years before this one coming where I was third, I won it, and I was fourth, and I should have won. But then this year, I was thinking, going to it was a different time of year. I'm thinking, I'm due a bad one, and I did bad. As simple as that. But like next year, I'm not going to sulk on it. Just get down there the Thursday, practice, go through. But yeah, I think the competitive side of it just gets you done it.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've got to be a bit ruthless as at the top of any sport, and if you want to be consistently very good, you have to just have that competitive mindset, and especially the way you do a lot of big money qualifiers. I think you have to have a specific mindset for that sort of fishing. Where if you don't do so well, you can just sort of sweep it under the carpet, but be ready for the next one.
Yeah, it is hard paying 70 quid every time just to go, oh no, that's not going to be good. But then I've been done it for a few years now, and like I think you forget about the money, because when you get in one of the finals, it's just ridiculous how how well you feel you've achieved it. Do you know what I mean? You just forget about all the. I'd happily spend like £2,000 chasing qualifiers and qualify in the last one.
Yeah,
because it's what I do. I know it's not for everyone, and it is a lot of money and it is expensive, but it's a life-changing amount of money if you think about it as well.
If you get there and you do, yeah, you win it when you're there. And so Fishermania qualifier tickets, they've all sold out now, which is the last time I remember that happening was the old ballot system where it was always the 1st of January, you put your name in the hat, and then it was around March where they basically split tickets up randomly, and there was always the top anglers get more tickets than the rest.
I remember that.
But it used to sell out at that point, and then they went to the sort of pay basically up to the event sort of system, and they've not sold out since. But this year they've sold out within the space of a week, isn't it, or just under a week. A couple of them, Old Huff, one of my personal favourites, sold out within an hour, and the website was crashed for 45 minutes of that.
I know, it surprised me, that Old Huff, because it's a fantastic fishery, and people haven't been. It's so easy access, isn't it? You can park behind a lot of pegs,
That's why I love it.
And it's dead easy. But I was amazed that sold out first, because people might have been unsure, but whether there's a lot of anglers around there, or the northwest coming down, or it's in the middle sort of thing. It's nice to see, to be fair, new venues selling out quite quick.
Yeah, I'm really pleased for Mel there, because he, like you say, the venue, when you see it, it's lovely paths, all lovely mowed lawns. It looks nice to be sat there, and you can park behind every peg. But like you say, it sold out so quickly. But then all for the last couple of years, the open match numbers have been fantastic there. That it's a sellout even midweek. So it's no surprise that it has been popular, because it only needed another, say, 30 people to be interested, because I'm pretty certain all the regulars will be on that fish show qualifier.
Yeah. I used to go a little bit years ago, but when was it Doug the name, the old owner?
Yeah, I think it was.
It was, but when I went, it was like the carp were quite small, like £1 to £2, but like you used to catch on Maggot shore, and you used to catch everything. You used to catch like big skimmers, tench, and it's just, I think I went on, going back to the club, we used to do like a knockout round, like the Drennan one, and there was a semi-final on there on boulders, and I can remember I drew, I think it's peg 5, top corner, just before the bend. I remember it like yesterday, and I caught like £30 of hide, like they're all like this big, tiny things, and then I caught some F1s and stuff and later on. But yeah, it's a nice fishery. It's laid out lovely, but I haven't been for years and years just because chasing qualifiers, and it's much easier for me just to pop down to Western. Do you know what I mean? It's only 5-10 minutes away. It's not far, where that would be like an hour, 50 minutes. So
yeah, fair enough. So how many tickets did you get for it?
8 I got.
8.
I'm going to do weekends though. That was a bugger.
Fair enough. Right, moving on. So you're working hard with your YouTube channel at the minute. Why do you feel that it's so important to have that presence these days?
What on the YouTube and social media and stuff?
Yeah, and a social media presence.
I just think it's a changing world, isn't it? Like, it's, if you look, all the young anglers now that for people that are on YouTube, you've got like myself, Joe, Kaylee, that's the Preston lot sort of thing. You got Rob Swan on there now. I got a few others. Alex Doxey's on there, and it's all an younger generation. I think we just adapt with the change. Do you know what I mean? I think it's like Instagram's massive as well, and Facebook obviously, and obviously that TikTok coming into it. You know what I mean? Put stuff on that. It's just, you've got to go with it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not like the old days where you get Angling Times and everyone reads it like I used to read them. You look at the Northwest, who's won there, and you'd see like Will Raisin won 4 in a week at Gold Valley. But now it's too easy just to sit on your phone, flick up. Oh, he won. It's just a change in time, isn't it? So you're just going with it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
You think you just take it. Obviously, younger people are going to adapt quicker than older people, because it's a general truth that older people don't like change, whereas younger people are changing with that change, for example.
Yeah, and I think in general, YouTube is just massive in angling, isn't it? I think now people are, like you mentioned there, with the sort of old media of your magazines and that sort of thing. The new media, people know that if they want to find something out, they go to YouTube, or they go to Facebook or Instagram, and that information is generally there. You can search, if you wanted to learn about pellet fishing on a snake lake, you search it into YouTube and there will be some videos about that. It's sort of our job's your job to keep people up to date with the change, because things always change in fishing every single year. The tactics, I remember with the magazine, people used to say, oh, well, it's the same stuff every year on repeat. Well, things change every year, don't they? So even things that looked very similar the year before, there's always slight changes. If you looked at an angler's tackle or even his rigs from 5 years ago compared to what people are using now, they'd be so different. Even like the floats, all that sort of thing. So it's just so important to keep people updated with that, isn't it?
Yeah, what I've found is in winter it's been quite challenging, because the weather affects it. So I can go out filming. It could be perfect weather, it could be overcast, whatever. Set up, go in, and it doesn't move, and you just think, like, what do you do to try and get your point across, or what you're up to? And you just sit there and you think, well, people don't want to see you sitting by a lake catching nothing. Yeah. And then I've had it before. People say, can you do a dobbing video? It's like, it's impossible. I'll catch one, and because I'm sat on the lake on my own, they'll go, yeah. And then it's like, it's harder and harder, obviously, because there's no new products to use. So it's like the call coming out in this springtime now. So it's like, right. And then all of a sudden now I've got an action packed. I can get out on the bank. I like getting out on the bank now because it's t-shirt, hoodie, not t-shirt yet, but hoodie weather. Yeah. All of a sudden you've got like loads of Sonubaits products to go out and try. There's a few Preston ones coming out as well. You think, hang on a minute, I've got too much now. And the fishing's changing. So it's like, it's getting good. And it's like, whoa, I think on my schedule, I think I'm probably done for like 2 or 3 weeks in advance now, just because of what I've been doing and getting out. And in winter, it's like, oh, I don't want to go out. It's like, nah, I'll do that. And
unfortunately, that's what most people are thinking as well.
Yeah, it's
just before this video, we said like it's getting towards that Easter weekend now, and I think that is usually sort of the trigger for people to decide, right, that's it, I'm getting my gear out, I'm going to go fishing. They usually renew the rod license. I don't know when that tends to get renewed, but around that sort of time, and they're getting out around that sort of time. And hopefully that's what sort of kickstart it for this year, because unfortunately shops aren't open as much as it's all click and collect or ordering. which doesn't generally help. But yeah, hopefully this Easter weekend, long weekend coming up, will get people out on the bank a bit.
Yeah, it is hard, but then all of a sudden when it's like lighter nights, so people might be working, say they finish at 4 or they finish a bit earlier, they think, oh, I'll just go down there for an hour. But when in winter, it's pitch black, you can't do anything. You don't want to be out and about, do you? Or you don't want to doing stuff. But now it's like with my YouTube, I've got loads of stuff to try. I want to go and try stuff, but also I'm learning more because I'm going fishing more.
Yeah.
So there's little things I pick up, like my groundbait one the other week, which we'll touch on later. But it was just like I could have done that in winter, but I didn't go fishing and catch enough to then get that eureka moment of the groundbaits, and it was like it's just annoying in winter. But that's what it is, isn't it? You try and do your best, but then in the summer it's so easy. You could probably go out and film, and you could get everything you want to get across in your day and loads of videos. Getting you fishing, you catching fish. Everyone wants to see that, and you get loads of new products to use.
Yeah,
but in winter, obviously, because there's no point bringing out a summer ground bait in January, is there? Because you're not going to use it.
Yeah, exactly. But we were talking about this earlier. It's a bit of catch-22 because when it gets to that summer and you've got all your qualifiers and your matches, it gets to a point then where every time you go fishing, it's pretty much a match.
Yeah.
When match fishing is allowed, which from the 29th of March, we're hoping it will be. I believe it is. So at that point, that's when this period that you've been going through recently, you've been out testing lots of different bits, playing with products that you wouldn't necessarily usually get the chance to like mess about with. And so as a Sonu consultant, is being able to see the things behind the scenes and being able to get hold of like the range of products that we've got, has that changed your view on certain things as well?
Yeah, I think we've spoken about this before, haven't we? It's massive. Say, for example, I'm going to a match and it's 100 miles an hour. I could be going, say on the Saturday, I could be going to the Oaks. I think I've got a weekend in May where I'm going to the Oaks on the Saturday and Glebe on the Sunday. Now, that's two different styles of fishing, really. One of them's F1y carpy, the other one's carpy, aggressive. Do you know what I mean? The fish feed's so aggressive there, they're angry. You need cage feeders, you need all two different aspects. And I'm not gonna risk a chance of not catching, which I probably wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? I'm not gonna say, oh, you're not gonna catch on these products, but it's this doubt in your mind, you're not sure, are you? If I said to you,
you know what you believe is
yeah.
like for your fishing, don't you? Or your personal favourites.
It's like when I used to travel with people and they say, I'll try this, you're thinking, I don't want to. Because and then you try it and you catch one and you think, oh, it's brilliant. And then sometimes you try it and think, what's he on about? Yeah. So it's a little changes. And obviously I've been lucky because I can go to Western within the lockdown. Do you know what I mean? I haven't been going anywhere else, just been going there. And all the lakes are slightly different, like the clay pit. I've done it stuff on past in the before, like fishing in deep water, and it is stupidly deep. But because you got the time to get to there, and on an afternoon when you get free, just go down and try. Oh, that's flat bottom there. So right, what can I do? I know there's a head of skimmers in there. I know there's loads of roach. I know there's loads of carp. Like I know what's in there. Do you know what I mean? I've been around that fishery long enough to understand what's in there. So when I did my video for the 15-foot of water, I thought, right, I wanted to go on the boards basically, but the wind was coming down. It was freezing. I thought, I'm not going to sit there. It's not fair on me and my cousin sitting there, divering, not catching anything in the wind. It was howling. I thought, right, I'm going to sit on peg 28 because I know there's if you haven't been the clay pit, it's ridiculously deep. It's like top 5 deep at 30 meters, stuff like that, even deeper in some bits. And it's quite flat. So there's probably like that much an area that's quite flat. So I thought, right, I can feed some ground bait, loose feed over the top, catch loads of roach like I always do and stuff like that. So I've fished Thatcher's black and black roach, caught loads of fish, had a lovely day, cut off the bottom really quickly. And it made me think, I thought, well, I'll go back next week. And me and my mate Dan went, and I thought, we'll just sit on the boards this time because the wind was off our back. So I've gone in the shed. I've got no black roach left because I haven't ordered any. So I'm thinking, I don't matter. So I just picked some super sweet up, banged it in, fishing away. And I thought, you know what? I don't think it matters how much you feed. So I put 11 balls in. I've sat there for 2.5 hours. I've not had a bite. Not had a bite off the bottom. I've not had a roach. I've not had a sign. Neither has Dan. He's fished the same as me. And my dad was with us on the other side. He's fishing the feeder. He's had a few F1s. And I'm thinking, oh, no, I'm not going to catch it. It must be because of here. It must be where we are. There's a few bubbles coming up, pimples. And I thought, no. So anyway, my dad's gone for a walk. I've jumped on his gear, caught a carp on the feeder. I'm giving it the big one because he's literally walked up the bank and I've got one on. So I was just like, wait, what have you been doing all day? So anyway, he's never fished in that depth of water for carp before. So he's jumped on my box, slipped a single Maggot on, put his rig in, and he put it in like towards him. So obviously, like when you're fishing on a shelf, you want to put your rig in so it comes in. So he's just dropped it in. I said, Dad, you can't do that. I said, flick it out. So he's flicked it out. It's come down. It's gone in like that, and it's gone boom. I watched it go under off his box, and he's up it, and I've gone never, and he's caught a carp. Now there's a video on Instagram him playing it, and he's just like, "What do you do?" I said, "Just lift up." I said, "Don't do anything drastic. Lift up." Lifted up, netted an F1. I thought that's lucky. I thought that's luck. Gone in again, boom, gone straight under again. Big hybrid, and I thought, what's going off here? It's gone in after that, caught a massive carp, and I'm like, I hope they've turned up now. Gone in again, and I've had like £25, £30 a big bream, and I'm just like, what's going on? It's ridiculous. We caught loads of carp, loads of bream, and not had a roach. And I'm thinking, it can't be where we're sat, because I know if I've been on there before and caught roach and stuff, I've caught loads of them. So anyway, we feed in. I was literally, I used all my ground bait, and Dan didn't put all his in because he wimped out. He didn't want to feed all of it because I set up and put my bait in. And I've not had a bite for 40 minutes. And he's like, I'm not putting that much in.
Yeah.
So I've got no ground bait left. So what I was doing is going, getting a ball off him, putting it in, topping it up, catching him. And then I thought, I can't bother going and get any more of him. He only had like one left. He was catching a few now. So I started loose feed and stopped feeding ground bait, and I caught roach again. And I thought, that's not a coincidence that. Like, I know I speak about attraction and the right ground baits fish for different fish, but you speak about it, and until you have that experience of it, it doesn't change your Eureka moment, like I
the black roach being a really, really active, it fizzes, pops, it flicks bits into the upper layers. It's that natural mix, which is just more active compared to super sweet, which you cooked in and basically has just sat on the bottom and put like a bed of bait. And until them fish settled on it and found it, which it took them a while to do, but once they did, it was just carnage.
Yeah.
It's completely different, isn't it? And you wonder why one would attract smaller fish, but lots of them very quickly. And one, it takes a while, but once they're there, they just don't want to leave it alone, do they?
No, you speak about it and you think, well, a thing is, I think I've got the naivety. When you pick a ground bait up, you think, what's in it?
Yeah.
So I always ask you, like, I love that super sweet. I don't know why, it's just a red flex in it. I always say, well, what's in it? And then to ask that, and I think, well, what's in it must attract the fish. Do you know what I mean? So it's like when you pick up a bag of black roach, it says coriander and hemp. So you're thinking, well, that's what roach like. That's what you look at. So I went to the clay pit and I thought, right, I'm going to have a look underwater because there's a bit behind the boards where you can see what your ground bait's doing. So I've took my GoPro, put it underwater, and the difference is just like, oh, right, yeah, I understand it now. It's like, obviously, people might have known, people might have understand it. If you don't play around with ground baits, I just don't think you have an understanding. And it's like, I didn't have an understanding, I'll be truthfully honest. I just plonged it in, it works, stuff like that. And caught loads of bream on that, but I didn't have a bite for ages. And it's just thinking, we were just talking before, weren't we, about the difference of the consistency of you catching different fish. It is interesting. I have enjoyed not fishing matches in that time because I don't really like fishing in the cold. I'll do it, but it's not nice, is it? It's not nice waking up, you've got a team match on a Saturday when there's that much ice on the water. I don't like getting there early, and I've got to get there early. I've got to break the ice, and it's just, I've done it for years, and it's just nice this winter just to go and think, right, I'm going to mess around with some ground bits. And it was amazing. I knew there's skimmers in the clay pit, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But when you have one like 3.5 pound, I'm thinking,
proper, and
how many is there in here?
Yeah.
And I never caught on when I did for the black roach on that 28. It's not a very good peg really for F1s and carp. They're all massive, which they were there. and they'd never sit there because it's in a slight bay.
Yeah.
But I thought it's no coincidence that I've not caught them because of the black roach. It's just because of the area I'm on. So when I've gone on the board, I'm thinking, well, this is a rover match, and if you had the balls to put in 12 balls and then do something else for a bit and drop on it, I caught a ridiculous amount of fish. I must have caught 60 pounds in 2 hours. And when you're fishing top 5 deep, it's not easy getting them in. It's a bit harder. It's just like tugging, you're just holding on for dear life. Because if you start moving your pole around erratically, you're asking for a breakage, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
But that's the thing I enjoyed about it most, is changing the style of fishing. Like, I didn't really get any rivers.
You wouldn't usually do.
Yeah, I found a bit of canal by me, and I'm down to have a little go on it. But now I think, well, I'm going to go down with some black roach, because I know when I put it in, it's just going to go mental. Yeah. And I just want loads of fish there, catch them, lose feed. But if you caught some skimmers, like, right, let's go back, try a different mix. And it's the same with carp fishing as well. I'm going to be able to get that out a little bit more this year. So hopefully I'm going to experiment, because I think it's massive, when you're just understanding your bait, what it does. We were speaking about the Scopex before, weren't we? It's just, we'll come on to it in a bit, but it's just how it acts in the water. And if it acts the way you need it to, it's going to catch you more fish, isn't it? As well as what they want to eat like.
Yeah, it's definitely something that has been a massive part since I've been at Sonu, and speaking to Ian Day, who obviously is the main man, and he knows what goes into everything, tells me, and just understanding why I would pick a certain mix over another mix because of exactly what's in it and how heavy it'd be. And sometimes without having to actually mix it up and putting it in the water, I know exactly what's in it, so I know why that would be perfect for the sort of fishing I'd be doing. I think that's massive.
Yeah, I think my fish is quite simple. Do you know what I mean? I either use Super Crush Expander, Match Method Mix, and I go a bit of breaming. Sometimes it packs up, but not a lot. Yeah, not regular enough to learn my ground bait sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always go for the safe option. You ask a few people, like Thatcher's, I like Super Sweet just because it's got the red flecks in, so I use that. But now I think, well, if I went there, I've got a bit of better understanding of the ground bait. So thinking, right, say if you want a team match, for example, or something, and you think, right, I need to catch small fish today. Not really bothered about big bream. Not going to risk it. Get some active ground bait, cloud it up, get it in. You know what I mean? And you just keep getting bites. I think when you start learning and start getting little things in your head, you think, oh my God, that worked. I think you just go 100 miles an hour and you just pick up so much more. Do you know what I mean? Because I think when you start learning, you get excited. And when you get excited, you want to do it. So you do it more and more and you keep picking it up, learning. It's just like a training. And once you get on and start doing it, you just can't stop.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So we've talked a lot about that. What are your top? In fact, I'm going to change it a little bit. So 2021, you can use 3 products from the Sonubaits range. What are those 3 products going to be?
So what in my fishing?
In your fishing, yeah, you're only allowed 3. What are your top 3 choices?
It's going to be fairly simple, to be fair. It's going to be like a commercial anglers one. I'm going to say 2 mil Fin Perfects, where I can use them. Obviously, we're not Fishery pellets.
Why do you like Fin Perfects?
It's just the consistency of them. When I get a batch, I was speaking about it in one of my videos, and it's when you get a batch, it's just the ease of it. I know when I get the batch, I can look at it. They're a nice uniform pellet. There's no cracks and bubbles and stuff. They don't look horrible. So when I put them in my tub, I don't like faff. I can't be bothered doing with little strainers. I just literally put them in a tub, cover them with water, done. Like I try to be prepared as I am, but sometimes I'm not. So when I get to the bank, I want to be fast and efficient. And if I can just bang it in quickly, I know they're going to come out right. They're going to be right for what I need.
What's your tactic generally? Just covering them with water?
Yeah, just covering with water. Yeah, if you know your batch is good, which the Fin Perfect ones are. I've never had a problem with them, to be fair. I went out fishing with them yesterday and they're really spongy and they absorb the water fully, dead quick as well. And that's just cover them in water, leave them. Don't mess around with them. If you like flavours, you can chuck some flavours in, but I just literally cover them in water and leave them.
Yeah.
And then the second one, I'd probably say match method mix, original, just so versatile. Obviously, I can use it on a method. I can use it mudline fishing. I can put a little bit more water in fish down the edge, so I can keep the fish coming in, sort of that thing. So if you're saying 3 things I can't, you know what I mean, only could use, that would be the one.
Yeah, as an all-rounder.
Yeah, and probably going to go with fluoro waft. Is it Bandom things? Bandom?
Yeah, fluoro Bandoms, yeah.
Just because I like the colour. I just think I've been watching quite a bit of carp videos because I've run out of match ones to watch. So I've been watching carp, and I just think, obviously, this is where I work, and it might sound daft. Fish don't have hands.
Yeah.
So if they want to look at something, what do they use? Their mouth. And if it's bright and in the face, I think they pick it up. Yeah. And I think half the time, I generally think you don't catch fish that are feeding really. They're just nosy. Especially when like you go to a place like Barston and method feeder fishing, I just think they see it. The ones that are eating, fine, which you catch every time. But the ones that are just nosy and think, oh, what's that? Pick it up. You obviously got your bayonet on, you've got it all away from your hook turns. I sound like proper carpy now. And then it embeds and you got your bite. So I do think that. I think I've watched them underwater on a clay pit a lot, and they just plod around, do whatever they want.
Yeah. I think that's why a waft is so good as well, because it's neutrally balanced against your hook. Often I don't necessarily think they're there to eat your wafter. They're just there because they're slurping up what's there. Like you say, they're checking about with the mouth, and they're slurping things up, and your wafter ends up getting sucked into the mouth. 3 colours in them tubs as well, so you have got a bit of choice. So you can figure out it's a clever choice because you've got 3 products in one in each tub there as well.
A colour I think is personal, or what goes in generally.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think if you started, I've seen it too often at Western where you personally change the method because you start catching on it. For example, say if you said to me, right, what you're catching on at Western, I could literally say to you, casters, and all of a sudden you come with casters, you win. So your mate asks you, then your mate comes with casters, and then that's all they're getting. So then it's you don't change it massively, but you can change it to what is catching. Obviously, the time of year depends, but
you see it at Partridge, don't you?
Yeah, massively.
Because at Tunnel Barn, the fish feed on pellets for a lot longer than what they do at Partridge.
Yeah.
At Partridge, they switch to maggots very soon, but that's because the local anglers there are straight on maggots at the earliest possible opportunity. Whereas at Tunnel, they will push them on. They will push them onto pellets for longer, and the fish is just carrying on eating pellets, so they just keep eating them basically, don't they? And they just switch off them.
I think that's a good comparison, Partridge and Tunnel, because they're both Snake Lake commercials, but Tunnel, I've done a lot over the years there, and you need maggots, say, shallow on. Say, I call it the smaller fish lakes and the bigger fish lakes. So the smaller fish lakes, like the high pools, the top pools, the new pools, they're not small, do you know what I mean? The normal size, but the bigger fish like Club, Jenny's, odd house time on the open water are always casters. And it's just it's crazy the change. Like Partridge is a lot of anglers go there. It's a brilliant fishery, isn't it? You know what I mean? You can just park on the road, walk across, you're fishing your coveys, you wade in, you're gone.
Yeah.
The ease of it. If you literally, I reckon I could go there now without anything in my box, no bait, and get everything.
Yeah.
And it's the ease of it, isn't it?
Little tackle shop at Partridge is brilliant, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, like I've seen Babs put on that you can get ready rigs now. So literally you can rock up there, buy a bag of micros, buy a bag of expanders, buy your 2 ready rigs, and you're away. It's easy, isn't it? You don't want to be messing around. Yeah. it is mad how it changes. And Partridge it's never really cast as it is, but sometimes, but it's more maggots, isn't it?
A couple of years ago it was casters, wasn't it? But the last 2 years through summer to catch shallow has been maggots, and then your mudline fishing, that sort of thing. I think somebody's asked about mudline fishing, so we'll get to that in a second. But obviously a lot of ground bait and pellets, but the shallow fishing, it seems to be whatever the locals are onto, that's what you've got to fish to compete, don't you?
Yeah.
Switch onto
I find, because I fish a lot of qualifiers myself, you are asking like you're trying to just keep a sneaky eye on who's catching. Like, I know if we just catching, he won't be fishing casters, he'll be fishing maggots.
Yeah.
I know if Opo's winning, he won't be fishing maggots, he'll be fishing casters. You know what I mean? You just got to, if you know what they fish roughly, which I've been around on that circuit for a while, I know what people fish now. Do you know what I mean? It's people said to me, "Oh, what you fishing in Western?" They'd roughly know the time of year. Do you know what I mean? I know I'm going off topic, but Western personally, I just like to use casters between when you can get away with it because you need less bait. That's the only reason why. It's cheaper. That's the only reason. You don't want to be taking 6 pints of maggots. You can take 3 pints of casters and still get away with it. So that's the only reason why. It just makes your bait bill cheaper and easier.
Fair enough. Right, and then last of my questions, and then we'll move on to what's been sent in. So what are your short and long-term goals in fishing?
Short term, say this year.
Yeah.
I've got a few. I want to, I don't know why, I want to catch my bigger PB.
Yeah.
And I've been chatting to Joe that I want to go and catch a river carp. I've seen someone have one on Facebook in Chester the other day, and I thought, I know it probably won't ever happen, but I just want to catch one.
We've got Nick Marsh is one of our specialist anglers. He goes around catching a bit of everything. He's just done a video where he was out trying to catch perch on the river, using like jigs and stuff like that, and he saw 2 carp.
Yeah.
So he went back to the car, got his other setup, and caught a river carp just out of the blue like that.
I just think it's just, I don't know why. If you're an outdoorsy person, you like fishing. It's just like you. I want to go as well. You've been to the stretch, which we will catch. If I catch one, that's what it'll be. The one in Chester, on where we did that pole fishing article.
Just up from the town.
Yeah, to the more to the right. That's where they catch him, I think. And I seen the lad, and I think he just dropped on, and I just thought, oh, you put a bit of time and effort in, you will catch one. I thought. And there's a few. I've seen Darren Frost have a few farmed, and there's a lot. I think they escaped from a fish farm years ago when it flooded. But you've got to catch. I don't care if it's £5. It's just something to try.
They always look pristine, don't they? Natural.
Yeah. It's just. I think a wild fish is the trick one, and that's my second one. I want to catch. I used to go barbling with my dad years ago, and I want to do it again because I don't think people realise they haven't been barbling. Like, I've caught a lot of barbling commercials. Yeah, they fight, but not when you hook one on the river. Like, they just literally, you hook it and you're just holding on. You're not in control, are you? They're in control. They're powerful. I've been to Croatia and seen someone net a £12 one, and I've seen it, and it smashed his landing net. And it's just like the power of it is ridiculous, and it's just, I was getting that nature side of it. Get it? Catching them fish is just the big wild fish. You think you've achieved something if you've done that.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I do match fishing a lot, but it's just nipping out and trying to nick one of them. And then obviously that third one for this year, probably try and get in the final again.
Yeah.
I'd love to get in Fisho. I think last year was a big disappointment, but because obviously the weather's affected things and I drew the peg I wanted, but one of them, I'd like to have another go at that. Just because hopefully crowds are allowed this year as well. I think that's what makes Fishermania. I've been in match days.
It was a really weird situation this year, wasn't it? Even like the night before, and then while you sat there, and like I was a bank runner for Rob Swan on the day, and you sat there in a face mask and just felt a bit of a.
It's not really. Not what you want. I sat behind Christian when Bennett won the first time, and when he netted that fish, everyone was going nuts.
Yeah.
Like, it must have been horrible for Simon, but everyone was going nuts. Even I was like, go on, like, you know what I mean? I'm 5 pegs away. Like, we've given up on that now. We're just sitting there, and it's like, go on, like, that's the focus of it. That's what fish are. And it's, I think when I first ever seen it, is it my granddad's when Clive Wright won?
Yeah.
And I think that's what the bug of it is. You know what I mean? The fans, and they're quite rowdy up there, aren't they? Them Sheffield lot, like, or the Doncaster way, like.
Yeah, definitely.
And then long-term goals, probably try and have a go fishing full-time. Like last year, I got furloughed a lot, and there's a fact of getting up in the morning, knowing you're going to go fishing to a match or go filming or go coaching someone. I don't ever felt like when I was going to work. Do you know what I mean? I never felt I was going to work.
Yeah.
when you coach someone and they go away and you think, oh, then the next minute you forgot because you're going to a match and you get a text saying, oh, I won my match. And it's like, well, I've helped that person. So I've achieved something. Like with YouTube, you get messages saying, oh, thanks, you've helped me with that shot in, or you helped me with this. I didn't understand that. And I've done it myself. I've YouTube stuff and looked, and it's like, right, yeah. Obviously, I've like pestered you. I've pestered so many people about all this filming stuff. They must see my name and think, oh, not him again. But I don't know. I enjoy that side of coaching.
Yeah.
And
The coaching side. So you go all over really with that, don't you? But it's more on people messaging you and asking you for a day rather than like you advertising it as such, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't like. I have limited days, so I couldn't. Do you know what I mean, with work? So I couldn't say, oh, I'm coaching full time, because I can't do Monday to Friday every day. I think it's the odd Friday and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think I was speaking to someone the other day about it. It said you don't have to be. Obviously, I have a bit of knowledge about fishing, but you don't have to be amazing football. Not football. That's what I was trying to example. You're gonna have amazing fishing.
Yeah.
To coach someone. Do you know what I mean? It's like you look at a lot of the coaches in football. Some of them were amazing players. Some of them weren't.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think, if you're learning with them and you can try and translate it, it is enjoyable. I really enjoy it. Like, I just think that's my biggest goal. Try and do it, because it's just a nicer life. You can enjoy it more and get on the bank. Yeah. Nothing more better than sitting on the side of a bank. Nothing.
No, exactly. Right. Let's let's move on to these questions that are getting sent in.
I waffled on there.
All right.
Have a drink.
Good. It's a nice little background, isn't it, of what you're wanting to do in your history in fishing. Right. So we have got, hi Jake and Matt. I've got a match next month at Westwood Lakes. Would you use groundbait in the margins? And if so, which one? Don't know which lake, obviously. Thanks, lad. So you've fished Westwood Lakes quite a bit.
Yeah, I've been up there. It's good little venue, that is.
Why don't you give a bit of a run through of the general tactics? And next month, so we're looking end of April.
So next end of April. So you're obviously going to be fishing. There's 3 areas at Westwood you want to be fishing: down the margin, down the middle, and across. So the thing is, at Westwood, it's quite interesting. Down the middle, you're obviously going to be fishing with maggots, try and catch shallow on the bottom, because there's a lot of F1s in there. There's a lot of barbel on the bottom. You can catch a lot of carp on the bottom as well. But this is the thing. If you're on, say, Falcon Lake, for example, all the lakes are quite like this. The Snake Lake typey ones, like Falcon and Osprey, and Skylock's obviously a little bit different, but I'll touch on that. Is, say, Osprey and Falcon, there's a lot of, like, stocky carp. So it's okay catching shallow, but if you can catch down the margin on some ground bait and maggots or across, you can catch carp. So it's a lot easier. Do you know what I mean? You say if you needed, say the F1's average £1, you need say £100, you need 100 of them. But with them carp, they're going to average 2 to 3. So you're making yourself a lot easier. You don't need to go like 100 miles an hour if you have a bad. Not
a busy fool. You're sort of like,
yeah. It's just
a steady match rather than a hectic match.
I've done that there before. It's like I threw maggots down the edge and I'm like, I'm catching the odd, but then I just fed the little nuggets of match method, dropped it in. It's like focuses on 3 maggots on the hook, get one that way. But with Skylark as well, just touch on that. It's a lot of carp. So if you can get shallow water in the edge and they're coming in, fish ground bait. But if not, just fish pellets, just slightly down the shelf or across into the shallow water, and you can't go far wrong on that one. But with Falcon and Osprey, their ones just maggots down the middle and either fish soft pellets across if you haven't got a mud hole. But I think at Westwood, I think you will be fishing in the mud hole in the end of April, because there's a lot of fish in that venue. Yeah. So just be careful with your ground bait. Just make it slightly damper than you would, so it just sinks a little bit quicker, because there's a lot of mouths to feed.
And what ground bait would you be looking to use?
I'd either go for match method, or if you can get hold of some new Scopex, have a little go with that, because
Scopex.
Yeah, just it's got the same thing we were speaking about before, weren't we? It's got crushed expander in it. It's got fish meals. It's got coarse pellets ground down. Yeah, and it's got them red flags, which I like.
Yeah.
And I often mix match method and super crush together. So if you can get bits of each into that Scopex one, I just think you don't have to be buying other bags.
Yeah.
It'll be a repeater style.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously I think the colour's a good one for like it's sort of that typical what you look for in an F1 e-car type ground bait, isn't it? That real golden colour, but it's got that fleck of red in there. You can really make that really, really damp, which is what you want for edge fishing and mudline fishing. So it just sort of sinks to the bottom.
Yeah.
You mentioned there mixing Super Crush Expander and Match Method mix, and that's basically the Super Crush Expander is so attractive to fish, but it is a little bit light, and because it's crushed expanders, it's a bit light, it's a bit fluffy, and can be wafted about a little bit.
Yeah.
Match Method mix is heavier, and that Power Scopex is just sort of like the halfway house, and just a lovely mix, isn't it?
Yeah, what you want is what you're looking for, and it's like I was speaking before, my mixes, you want it to resettle quicker. So if I was to cup in, say, Super Crush in the height of summer when the fish are coming in all the time, like they're coming round in circles, they're coming in, Super Crush will be fine. But if I can use a ground bait which resettles a little bit quicker, gives you an edge, doesn't it? So it's just about just the little edges of being a little bit quicker ground bait sitting down, because it's slightly heavier because you've got some coarse pellets in, but you still got some crushed expander in there, and just to create the cloud and draw them in, because that's what effectively ground bait is. It's an attractor, isn't it? They like eating it. They come flying in for it. They want to get involved in the middle of it. So yeah, that's how I'd go about Westwood Lakes.
Lovely. And what's your hook bait of choice there? You mentioned maggots. Is red or white maggots? What do you prefer?
Yeah, I like either. If you're fishing free, obviously you've tried to move on to white maggots at that time. If you're fishing for shallow, just seems to work better than reds. I think it's because of the colour of the water.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier, but I like to have whites with a few reds.
Yeah.
So if I go to the shop, I get a gallon, I get 7 pints of whites and a pint of reds, and then I just can mix it up. So I basically I always like a red one on. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Just little thing. It's either two whites and a red, or 2 reds and a white. Just mix it up. It depends what you're catching. If you're catching F1s, you want 2 maggots on. If you want to try and catch some carp, put 3 or 4 on. Just you catch some barb as well in them lakes.
Yeah.
But you can't go far wrong with that.
Yeah. Lovely stuff. Jake Sherrick has said, how much ground bait would you feed both to start and keep the swims going on commercial margins and also mudlines across fishing maggots or pellets? I don't see how people get through 1 kilo in a match.
That's two different scenarios, really. So if you're fishing for carp, for example, say we take the Glebe, you might not feed until 2.5 hours to go. So you might feed nothing there, and then you might feed a pot. So it's 250 mil.
Yeah.
So you might feed a pot, and that pot might take 1 pot for 1 fish to come in. So what might happen is you might feed that 1 pot, 1 fish comes in, you catch him, you go back in, you don't get a bite. So what you need to do is repeat it, put another pot in, and that's how you can get through a lot of ground bait quickly. Yeah. To be fair, you're never going to go. I don't think I've ever fed 2 kilos in them sort of situations. Do you know what I mean? Unless you were catching early in the margin.
Yeah.
But as carp fishing goes, you just need that amount of bait to attract them. Sometimes you might only need half a pot. Sometimes you might need to put some micros in. So chuck some 2 mil thin perfect in there. But with F1 fishing, it's quite busy, aren't you? You're shipping across. A lot of the time, if you're fishing across into mudlines, you're catching hopefully 40 to 80 fish, say, for example. So if you catch, say, 80 fish, you've shipped across 80 times, but how many times have you missed one? Do you know what I mean? So say how many times have you missed them? So say if you double it, it's 160 times, and it's a cab pot every time. So you're back and too busy. You're going to get through your bait, aren't you? You won't feed 2 kilo. Geez, that's a lot, but you will get through a kilo if you keep repeating it. But with the mudline.
So how much are you feeding at the start when you're mudline fishing? What size pot are you using, and how do you kick that?
Just a medium pot, really. If you're looking, the thing is in mudline is it's the fish want to be there because it's the height of summer, isn't it? They're active, they're feeding. They'll be quite quick and responsive to bait. It's not like winter where you tap a bit in, you wait half an hour. They'll be there within 2 or 3 feeds, especially when you're fishing with ground bait, because it's the attraction of it. They're coming in. they're just flying in off it, and then they'll be there. When they're in the mudlines, they want to be in the mudlines, so they'll come in quite quickly. It's like the carp situation. If you fed a pot at the start, it'd probably sit there because you've been in a match, you've been setting up, you've lobbed your nets in, your mates come down chatting to you. They know what's going on. Do you know what I mean? They must know as a match because they're just happy as Larry. Next minute, 50 nets go in the lake, and it's like, whoa, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Like, and I swear at the end of the match, it's not because people throw the bait in at the end. I think it's because everyone stops feeding.
Yeah.
So you imagine, say, you went to Larford on the specimen bank and everyone's feeding 8 mils at 30 meters and it just stops. You'd be like, where's that gone? Then it's go straight into your edge. That's what I think happens. You know what I mean? I remember speaking to Jamie years ago and he said the best matches at Larford were the pole ones because there's no one feeding 8 mils. So every fish it wanted to feed had to come to the pole. And
they weren't getting sent to the middle of the lake.
Yeah. Well, if I threw some pellets at you 20 meters away, you ain't going to come towards me. You just be like, you've gone Chippy tea, loving it.
Chippy, he started at least feeding chips at me at 20 meters. I'm going to stay at 20 meters.
Yeah. Well, if I threw him at 5 meters and no one's throwing them out there, you're going to come and get them, aren't you? That's what the dog's trying to jump up here.
I like that.
Yeah, that's why. So
fair enough. Yeah, and I think the mudline side of things as well, it's all about working out what's happening. So a lot of the time you'll feed and you'll see a fish there and you'll see it power wave out your peg and you almost you almost in your head think, oh, I'll sit there because there was a fish there, I'll wait. But a lot of the time coming back, refilling up your pot, because often it is, as much as there's a lot of movement in the water, often it's like that one fish and you've missed that chance to catch that one fish and you sort of need to reset your trap, don't you? So working that out's important. Yeah,
is it basically you feed, they only come into that area, don't they, to feed. They're not interested in anything else. They want your bait. Sorry, dog's trying to jump up here. See ya.
All right.
Down. So they only come into that area to feed. So if you sat in the mud line and didn't put a bait on, they won't be there. But as soon as you start putting bait there, they come into your bait. So if they come into your bait, that's a good sign because you're going to catch them. Like I say, if you miss your chance, like it's the old thing, don't get too disarmed, just come back, start it again, because then you'll have a spell where you will catch them.
Yeah.
It's just, you just got to be really busy and really active with it.
Good stuff. Jake also says he loves your YouTube channel, by the way.
Thanks, pal.
Darren Broadbent, when preparing pellets, what's the difference in preparing for pellet feeder and method feeder?
I haven't really done a lot of pellet feeder fishing, but I think it'd be the same really. I think pellet feed you want when you're fishing to islands where you're not fishing a lot of bait. I wouldn't really choose to fish a pellet feeder when I want a lot of bait there around there, because I think a method gives you a better option. It gives you like your little pile on the bottom with your hook bait straight in the middle, and a pellet feeder is just, it's that only one way they can get in. But don't get me wrong, if your fishing's really good, maybe use a pellet feeder because there's only one way the fish can eat your bait.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like say they can only come from one angle. As a method, they could come from a side, knock your bait over the side, eat your pellets and go. But as with the pellet feeder, there's just that little 10p piece, isn't there?
Yeah.
Coming straight on that. But the same as always, just cover them with water, make sure they bind. If not, if you're allowed ground bait, put a few bits of ground bait through. I don't think it makes a massive difference. It's just a bit of attraction.
Yeah.
And if you can't, just use that pellet binder because it's just a bit easy. I know Finn uses that a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah, Finn likes the pellet binder just to make sure they stick. The important thing with method feeder fishing and pellet feeder fishing is making sure that your bait is ejecting or coming away from the feeder. So with a pellet feeder, because it's a closed off feeder, if you over wet your pellets and then shove them in the pellet feeder, because no extra water can get into the pellets and help eject them out of the pellet feeder, you can come into some problems. So doing them on the dry side and almost covering them and pouring the water off quite quickly and having them so that they've still got a bit of a hard center is often a lot better than if you soak them right through, just because there's more room in the pellets so that water can get in and eject them out the feeder. with a method, you don't get that quite as much because it's open so they can fall away. But having them a little bit drier does help make it that you can squeeze them onto the method really hard, and them stick. Basically, if you over wet them, often that's when you get them like sort of smushing out of the mold, which often isn't ideal. So I would always say when you're fishing a method feeder or any sort of closed off style of feeder, whether that's a banjo or a pellet feeder, always go on the drier side than sort of over wetting them and having them soft all the way through, just because you there's a bit more leeway and you can actually squeeze them in harder, but still get away with it and them still ejecting out the feeder or off the feeder, whichever.
It gives them space, doesn't it, to come out?
Yeah, exactly. There's more space for air to get in and water to absorb into the pellets, which in turn actually helps them eject out the feeder.
Yeah, I haven't done much pellet feeder fishing, to be fair. It's a great tactic, but it's not really used where I go. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah, it seems like method feeder fishing's like it's probably the same sort of thing before that you were saying about the different ground baits and stuff. In the matches you go to, you know that a method feeder works.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily try a pellet feeder. It's similar for me. I sort of method feeders my number one pick, so that's what I use.
No, it's a nice little method. Just plot one in. It's easy.
Clive Hall, thanks guys. I love chunky fish as an edge / margin ground bait for carp. Would any of the new ground bait combinations, etc., beat this one? Also, which new or old paste would match it, please? So chunky fish is, I would say, so it is the fishiest mix in our range. It's got real dehydrated fish chunks in there. So when I'm in the factory, I actually have them. Ian absolutely loves them. He's got a big bag and he'll show you them, and it's actual fish and they're in like chunks like this. That's them blended up and it's in the ground bait. So as far as the fish meal content goes, it's as pure a fish meal as we have got in any of our mixes in the whole range, because it is actual fish, like loads of fish. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. It's a coarse mix, it's heavy, and it's a perfect mix. I absolutely love chunky fish. The only one that would sort of maybe compete with it from a fishy smelling perspective is the new krill and squid. So that one there, I leave it and it's really, really fishy, and I leave it. It's in my office actually. The dog walks in all the time, and it goes for that one every single time because it just thinks it's proper fishy. It's a bit finer than what chunky fish is. So if you are looking for a bit more of a sticky, finer mix, then krill and squid's going to be the one, and it's probably a little bit better suited for a method feeder as well. I think that's going to be an amazing method feeder mix because it's a little bit finer and a bit stickier. You'll be able to mold that around a method feeder. And in terms of which paste would go with it, it depends whether you use one of the 1-to-1 ones. I'd probably, if you were feeding ground bait and then fishing paste over the top, I'd just go for a Fishmeal paste in the 1-to-1 range. Or if you wanted to, you could probably make a paste out of krill and squid ground bait, to be fair. Is paste fishing something you do much of, Matty?
I've done a little bit. I think when we used to have night matches at Commonwealth by me, it was a great way of doing it, because I like paste fishing when there's a few fish to target. Do you know what I mean? So like you set your big blob, like you have a few pellets or some corn, and set it in there, and it's like wallop goes. I did it for years when I was younger, because I think when I was younger, it's exciting, isn't it? Like you sit there, big bristle, and it just goes wallop, and you think, yeah, I've caught on paste again. I used to always fish it like up Lloyd's Meadow and stuff like that. It's just, I've done it years, but like I said, it's the old thing in the matches. I'm too dubious to do it. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to go and fish paste because there's a lot of good paste anglers out there. And if I think, well, if I'm going to fish paste, I'm already probably years behind them.
Yeah.
So they all know all the little tricks about doing it. Like, say if you're going to fish against Finn, I wouldn't fish against paste against him, would you? You wouldn't go and fish paste or feeder against him. But if you've said to him, right, let's go and fish casters shallow, you think you'd be able to have him. That's the way I think of it anyway. But
yeah, I remember a match at Packington Summers, and it was a method feeder match.
Yeah,
like, I don't know how. Like I thought, oh, I've done okay there, and he weighed in at the end, and he told me what he weighed, and I was just like what? Like, how have you even done that?
It's when we went to. In fact, I've been on 2 days. You know, when we go with like all the Preston anglers for days, and first one was at Larford, and he was next to me then, and I was catching on the bar, I'm having a laugh. I think Lee Kerry come down and give me loads of abuse, having a laugh. Des, you know what they're like.
Yeah,
it's like my first time, so I was a bit like overwhelmed with them. I still am when you go with them now. And then we went to, I think it was Packington, the last one we went to, and I got there late because of the traffic. Rocked up, fish meat short, and I thought Robbie and stuff come down talking to me, and I thought, right, I'm going to go and learn stuff here. Like, I'm going to go and sit with Bud. I'm going to go and chat to him about natural feeder fishing. Went with Powers fishing the Waggler on the big gearies.
Yeah.
And then I went and watched Finn. I was just like, oh my God. Just think how I could never chuck a feeder as well as him. No. It's just like, I've seen him at the Glebe last year on a Friday. I think it was a Friday or a Sunday Open because he started running a few, didn't they? And he drew like, I think it was like 81.
Yeah.
And then he come back and was like, oh, have you done any good? And he's like, yeah, I won. Just like, and then he said to me, I was like, I think I drew like peg 4 on late one. Yeah. And he was on it the week before, and he goes, are you caught on a feed? I said, no, it's a massive snag. He went, oh, you want to chuck there? I was just like, oh, right. It's like, and then he was telling me about his system he does on the feed. I just, no, if it's a feeder or a pace match, I'm not going near that.
Fair enough. Jeff Ortega, hi gents. Have you managed to get any Fisher tickets? All sold out on the AT site. So I got the ones I wanted. I just got 4. I've got Old Huff was my number 1. I made sure I got that one straight away. I got a couple for Partridge, and I think I got Lakeview were my 4. You got 8. Where are you heading for qualifiers?
I got Morelands, and then I don't start my shifts until the week after, so I got Ehrenbrook on the Wednesday. Then I got Partridge on the Saturday, is it? I think. Yeah. And then I got Old Huff, Oaks, Tunnel, and Weston.
Yeah.
I can't do the last one at Weston because it clashes with the Pole Masters.
Right.
Which is a shame, but
yeah. Yeah. You'll be qualified then anyway. Hopefully before the Old Huff. You leave me.
Peg 1 on upper or something like that. That's where I'll be.
Yeah, peg 1, peg 13 upper, I think's the one. Peg 1 is a good peg, but you don't.
I've been there for years. That was the one when you went years ago.
Yeah, it's still good. It's just that you don't have much of an edge. You have like 2 Mudlines, but one's deep, and then you might have a right hand edge, but peg 3 will probably fish to it as well. So peg 13, you have a bit of everything to go at. That'll be my guess for it. Peg 13 upper would be my guess for that one.
Peg 2 Lucky Dip was the one as well. I won it years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I think any of them cut, if you can get a peg out of the corner and the end peg not be in, I think you've got a good chance, I reckon.
Interesting.
It will. I reckon there's at least a dozen pegs that'll be in contention, if not more. I think it'll be a really good match, that one.
I've said this about Western though, right? I've said many a times, I'm like, I reckon there's 4 pegs in each lake you can win off.
Yeah. And
then when I did my live with Rob, there's actually only 2 pegs that's everyone qualifies there. It's really? Just like, I don't know how it works. It's just not right. It's like, it's just mad how it works, isn't it? Like 2 Stretton and Finger 25 Bell for the ones that have won. It's just like, there'd have been 4 qualifiers and they've won all of them. So, but
crazy, isn't it? Crazy. Dean Bayless. Hi, gents. What ground bait does Matty use in a cage at the Glebe? When it's ground bait, they want and not pellets.
Dino, he loves it. I just use match method, to be honest. Nice and simple. I think that feeders, I have a nightmare with it, to be honest. I can't get on with that long hook length. It doesn't. I'd rather catch on the pole, but I think they fish a lot of particles, don't they? That's what key to it is. I found anyway. That's what, when you're there and you pick up a few things. I think a lot of people have fish casters, a lot of casting the feed and just cap it with ground bait.
Yeah.
So I just use pellets and then cap it with some ground bait if I need to. But if you're doing it that way, I think if they want to just cap it just to get out there, I think you want like an explosive one. So like crust expander would probably be good, just because it'll release dead quick and you get a cloud off it. It'll break down rapid because obviously it's nice and fluffy, isn't it? But
Yeah.
I think that power Scopex be taking some beating because it just got everything that I wanted in my ground bait. And now I understand with ground bait's been talking about my underwater thing. I just think it's just got everything. It's got that cloud, heaviness, red flecks, which I like, personal thing, but I just generally think I can't wait to have a go at that, to be fair, for him to warm up and have a go of it. Like,
Yeah. It'll be a popular one, I'm sure. Yeah, I think for a bit of everything. I think for your F1 fishing, I think for carp fishing down the edge,
yeah,
bit in the feeder or on the feeder. I think that's just going to be a real winner, that one. And it's
yeah,
got that sort of nostalgia because Scopex is that flavor that we all started with. Like when
yeah.
flavors were a thing, like first off when people started using flavors, Scopex was always the one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be popular because of that as well.
It's when I was in my club days, my dad's best mate, Jason, he honestly, his ground bait was always smelling of that. And he won every match near enough. Always he used to win. He used to like go over and you just smell him. You just smell it for ages. So yeah, that's the first ever flavour I ever smelled. It's like Scopex on the little spray.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. That's what I used to nick it from my dad's garage, that one.
Yeah, I can't wait. It'll just be good. You like instead of being stinking a fish, you'll come home smelling a Scopex. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Andrew Pearson, hi lads, great show. When fishing shallow on casters, do you band or hook them?
Band every time.
Why is that? What's the benefit of banding?
It's just the ease. You can get a few fish off one caster. I can put a red pellet on. That's massive. Little Robin red pellet, 6 or 4 mil. That's past 2 years. That has been the game changer sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like you say before, there's methods, but everyone's got a little edge, and that come around past 2 years. I think it is red pellet. I think a year or 2 years. Do you know what I mean? Red pellet in a band. I can band the maggot quickly.
So are you, even though you're feeding casters or maggots, a red pellet in the band?
Yeah, that seems ridiculous. Like, if you said to me you could only pick a hook bait to fish with casters, obviously not a caster, that would be that. Because I don't know why. It must be the same silhouette of the caster, or hooking them. You don't really need to do. We want them in a band. They're out the way. You get a bit of hook hold, just for a little bit more natural, obviously, because it's on the back of your hook. So it's an extra bit the fish can see. And I generally think with casters fishing or the shallow fishing, people think fish come like that to eat the bait.
Yeah.
Now, I've been lucky enough, and if you watch the Preston video of the shallow, Joe got it on video. They come up that way. It's mental. Like, I've seen it years ago.
Yeah.
They come up vertical, and it's just like when they come up, that's why you get your bolt effect, because they're turning on your pellet. Same as pellet waggler, isn't it? You know what I mean? When they take your pellet waggler and it rips off your rest, it's because they've turned on your pellet, hooked themselves, and effectively give you a bolt. But yeah, just put it in a band because it gives versatile. You could even like get your bait needle, put a head of a worm on, and push your band into it. Do you know what I mean? You got 4 baits there, and you can still use one hook. Like I said, I don't like faffing around changing stuff, and just simple. And
yeah, so if you've got a band on, you can just use what you want. No need. Yeah. Whereas if you're using a straight hook, you can't put a hard pellet on, can you? You can't.
No, you could. And the thing is, as well, I know you can slip it on, but it's so quick to put them in a band.
Yeah.
I don't use a baiting needle or tool, but if you just use a medium band, you can literally just push them in and they stay in dead firm. So it's just more easy than anything.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, and it's the medium bands that you use, isn't it? I've got
the Preston medium ones. You got them?
They're the small ones, but the medium ones. I'll try and find them. I'm sure I've got some somewhere.
I run out of them all the time.
I've got some somewhere, but I don't know. They're probably where I've been tying some hooks downstairs. But yeah, so them ones are where they're a bit tighter, but you'd have to sort of either use a tool or get your nail behind them. The medium one's just the perfect size to just push a caster through, isn't it? It just grips the caster enough, but you just never burst one, do you? It's perfect.
No, especially if like you take some out of your tub, put them on your side so they go hard.
Yeah. So
you get a bit of counterbalanced, and they're a bit harder, so you can just slide them on dead quickly.
Perfect. John Wood has asked, what ground bait would you use at Tunnel Barn?
What do I use now? Well, what am I going to use? This is going to change. But
I would say about now and then what you will use for through the year, like a bit later on when it starts getting to qualifier times, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so let's say like you need some ground bait, say it can be really good in winter there. So say from November to February, I've done a lot of the teams of 4 on there. I did it for 5 years. I wasn't going to do it this year because it just gets too much. It is hard traveling 10 rounds, traveling 2 hours there, 2 hours back. But Super Crush has been the best ground bait there. I just think the F1s love it. I generally think what happens is it attracts a few smaller fish and then makes them bigger fish come in and have a look. If you know what I mean. Say if you fed 10 maggots, it's just 10 maggots. They're not, a skimmer isn't really going to be bothered about 10 maggots or a little roach. You don't see what little fish, how many times you see underwater footage and there's like 10 perch that big to swim past. And it's like, if they, I know a perch really interacted about ground bait, but if a skimmer did that, started feeding and F1 seen it do it, they're like, no, I'm having that. It just gives you the bit of that, I don't know, I'd say it's like, it just speeds it up a little bit. Do you know what I mean? It forces something to happen in your peg. We used to catch like, either feed it like a putty, so it just sits there and gives off a bit of attraction, or just a small nugget to start with and then not feed it again. And then when I go there in the summer qualifier time, just like that half and half mix of Super Crush and Match Method, like I said before, I want the cloud, I want it to resettle quicker, mix them two together, perfect for that. It doesn't give off too much of a cloud. It's just a slight bit. When the fish either turns in your peg, it just might draw another one to come in. Just keeps you catching that a little bit longer. But like I keep saying, I want to go and try this Scopex one because it is that.
Yeah.
So I don't have to mess around going, oh, there's a pint of Match Method, there's a pint of Super Crush. Obviously, there's a few more different things in it, but I just can get a bag, can't I, and just tip it in, mix my ground bait, and it still acts the same way.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd be looking for. But it might change, you know what I mean? I might just think, no, I want to fish my other way or stuff like that. Just mix it up. You just don't know until you start doing it. That's what that lockdown, like we were saying earlier on, taught me. Do you know what I mean? To keep having a little look about.
Yep, sounds good. Iggy says, how many top kits do you take to a commercial fishery for a Snake Lake match? And Jake, can you get me a job at Sonubaits? I only live 10 minutes away from Stafford Park. So how many top kits would you tend to A, have with you in your hold all, and B, set up for your match?
It's just a thingy on this. I'm not a stickler for setting up everything, but in a big match, I do. For example, say like Pole Masters, I'll set up everything. I might never pick it up, but I'll set it up. But the beauty of your short kits is you can have them set up. So what I mean by this is, say if I have 6 ghost top kits, say, or the grey top kits, I could literally walk downstairs now, get my rig hookups, mark all my rigs, say from 8 inches to 2 foot, and probably get away with using that same rig, unless I break it, for the next 3 months. Because I can put it back in there. You're using like 017 mainline, so it's nice and robust, isn't it? It's like I never get broke on it. It never damages because you're using stocks as well. It never damages. You just keep using it. So say if you're going shallow fishing, you're going to need a few, because it's the way we fish now. We fish with a few different rigs to keep your fish coming. If you go on Snake Lakes, this is what you're going to need. But don't be put off too much by that. Do you know what I mean? Say if you're going out and out shallow fishing, you're going to need 4 to 6, say, to cover you.
Yeah.
But if you're going fishing across and down the edge, a lot of the time, get away with the same rig. So if I can get away with the same rig, I'll use it. I'm not a stickler for setting up with a cross rig and then down the side rig. If I find 12 inches across and 12 inches down the edge, that is the 12-inch rig, and I'm fishing that wherever. I don't like to do it. So it's probably going to need like 8 to 10, if that. That's going to cover you for everything, though. But you generally will be fishing more top kits if you're fishing shallow. So say if you said to me, right, Matt, you're going to Partridge there, you need to fish across in the mud line and down the edge. I'd probably set 2 rigs up, 2 or 3 rigs, not many. Cover my options, mud line, just out the mud line, just down the shelf, and then that's it. You wouldn't need hundreds of them.
Yep. And regarding the job, convenient that you live very close. I don't know what your attributes are. I don't know whether you're you want a factory-based job.
Worried you now.
Yeah. If you're coming
Look
for
at
mine,
me.
hopefully not. Ian listens to these and he might have you instead of me.
You're worried now. That's what you got.
Matty's
That's the end of the podcast, it'll be.
Craig Dawes says, what's the best way to order a Just Eat?
My cameraman.
Ask your mates to do it for you, Craig.
Do you know what about that? I just wanted to see if it'd work. I just didn't. I just generally.
I think we've told this story on here before, but basically, for some reason, Just Eat won't deliver to me. So, like, I can do it on my laptop, my phone, iPad, whatever. It won't send me a Just Eat. So there was one Friday, and I really fancied a chip phone to Matty, and Matty ordered it from Chester and sent it to my house in Cheltenham. So it worked for him, but wouldn't work for me. But yeah, definitely the best way. Get your mates to do it for you.
He loves it.
Dave says he does. Dave says Morelands looked fantastic yesterday. I was just there for a walk and a brew. Grant and the team are doing a great job. He's been doing all the new pegs, all the banks, hasn't he? Around.
He might as well just start again, mightn't he? He's done a mint job of it. Like when I went there last time, it wasn't very. It was nice, and it's got the potential. I've been there before, but it's nice to see he's got it and he's doing it back to what it wants again. It makes you think, I want to have a go with that again. Do you know what I mean? It makes you want to go there and think there's 50 peggers. It's getting that buzz back. That's what I enjoy about that open match scene. It's sometimes if you go to a fishery and it's a 10 pegger, you're thinking
that was the problem, wasn't it? It had dropped off where the matches weren't very big, and all last year the attendances were great. Grant that up where he's getting those core of match anglers in that local area that used to go there, because like let's not forget Morelands was like the original commercial fishery, wasn't it? It's where a lot of the name stars, like they all used to congregate there from the north, the south, wherever, the Midlands, and all used to go to Morelands as one of the first commercial carp fisheries. And Grant's doing a good job there. And,
it just makes me want to go. Do you know what I mean? I think 50 peggers, I've never been there before. It's that sort of like competition value. I want to prove that I can catch. Do you know what I mean? You want to go there and think, you can get into a campaign. You'll start speaking to new people. So like I've fished with Grant a little bit at Patzel, and like you don't want to draw anywhere near him because he never shuts up. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? We have a laugh. Do you know what I mean? It's a nice thing.
Tries getting in your head.
There's 2 days we fished a festival, and it's a little running joke, but he said to Pete Black, have he won your boat? You know, obviously, because you get put out in pontoon boats, don't you? Yeah. So that's what we always say when he puts a post on, like, have you got any boats at Moreland yet? Otherwise, I'm not coming. It's just when we were on the Shallows, I think it was.
Yeah.
Up the top end. And obviously, there's a golf course, isn't there? It's quite posh place. People playing golf, they don't really like noise. And we're sat on the Shallows. I think Jack was on next to me. I was here. There's a few people down. Grant was on this point, and he's literally mid-match has got his pole and blew it. But what he didn't realise was the woman behind him was playing golf, and you should have seen her face. She was like, impressed. And I was just like, no, I'm in the middle of, she can see me, I can see Grant, and I'm in tears laughing. And he's just like messing around with the brownie on the end. And it's just like, but no, I want to have a go up there. I might go and do a bit of filming just because it's a new lake. It's not a new lake, but like that bank's been done. Yeah. There's loads of fishing anyway, wasn't there? Yeah, so I mean, I think he won a qualified, didn't it, with 160, and that Silver's got loads of F1s in, and just he's doing loads, isn't he? He's putting loads of matches on. Nice to see like he's got festivals there and stuff as well, hasn't he? So what's going on?
Good. Hopefully it has a good resurgence, and I think under Grant it probably will do.
Yeah.
Be good.
Just need some boats.
Just need some pontoons to ship you out onto. Steve Priest, hi lads, enjoying the channel. I have seen that Sonubaits do a Maggot Fishmeal groundbait. When and where would you use this type of groundbait in your fishing?
Maggot Fishmeal one, is that the?
So Maggot Fishmeal is like
is it like the worm meal one? I've seen it.
Speaking about the dog and liking krill and squid. He's got his head right in there. Get out of there, you. So Yes, a maggot fish meal is it's got maggot meal in there, so dehydrated maggots basically, and it's sort of a low fish meal mix. It's still fish meal, crushed pellets, a bit of fish meal, and then that maggot meal. It's an absolutely brilliant skimmer mix. It's actually one that Lee Kerry uses a lot on Southfield Reservoir. I believe he mixes it with F1 Dark, and when he wants sort of a weaker fish meal mix. They're catching skimmers, maybe some F1s, but mainly like your skimmers and smaller stamp fish rather than bream and F1s and carp specifically. That's when he uses a maggot fish meal type mix. It's your sort of lower end of the fish meal scale. If you imagine like your chunky fishes, your 50/50s, your krill and squids as being high levels of fish meal, that's down in the low end with your F1s, basically, your F1 dart, that sort of thing. So when you're looking to catch skimmers, smaller fish, maggot fish meal is a great option.
Just think that, like we said before, wasn't it, that minefield of ground bait, it's until you start digging into it and understanding, it's a bit mental, isn't it? Like I just think you spoke about it then, you said less fish meal. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, right, well, if I had a bag of that and I feed a bag of that or the biscuity skimmer mix, so the super sweet skimmer.
Yeah.
Like, the little bit of fish meal, but it's super sweet as well. It's like, I'm just a bit obsessed at the minute with messing around because I can. It's just, like you say, that thing before, it's little things you pick up on. So probably I'll go away now and think, less fish meal. So say everyone to pat something, it's bright hot. I know from previous people telling me, do you know what I mean? It's not my thing, but if it's really hot, you want not so strong fish meal. Do you know what I mean? You want to dull it down, so you might think, I'll take a bit of that today because the weather's warm, there's a warm wind, or I've just got a bit obsessive like that at the minute.
Yeah, someone's asked here, Paul Davis has said, hi guys, is it worth trying Thatchers and a natural ground bait together on a natural venue? That doesn't see a lot of fish meal. And that's referring to what you've just said there. You super sweet with black roach. And it's that thing of getting a bit of a balance between how much fish meal you're including. Saving the dogs from eating all my ground bait. And then that level of activity in the mix as well. So if you're wanting to you want that bit of Thatchers, but you also want the activity, it's a great way of sort of having that sort of halfway house of having a really active mix that's going to attract your roach and your smaller fish in, but having that fish meal element that's going to mean that you're going to give yourself the best chance of catching some better fish as well.
Do you think generally, say if you go on a natural water, just because it's got fish meal and they don't really see it, they won't, do you know what I mean? They won't come over it, but I think they will if they're,
I think
if there's attraction there. They'll, like I said, if I fed Thatchers and black roach on a river, and effectively, I think generally the fish meal is the dull element on the bottom, so it creates a carpet, so it's less attractive. But all of a sudden, if I was on a river and it's all like fizzing and popping as well, I could catch roach and dace coming over, and then all of a sudden, if skimmers coming and glided in, there's something for them there as well. I think if you need the masses, don't you, to catch the fish, basically, and then
I think there's a bit of an element of that. I think there is a stage where you wouldn't necessarily put in one of our most potent mixes if you're trying to catch whole fish, because I feel like Thatchers, even though it's often seen as like a bit of a silverfish mix, and a lot of people use it for skimmers and bream, it's actually one of our highest level. It's got one of the highest levels of fish meal in there. It's got other non-fish meal ingredients in there as well, though. So it's sort of like, I'd say your percentage is lowered by that. But it's a bit of a strange one, because when people say, I've used that and I've caught loads of roach over it, like us who know exactly what's in it, you're always like, well, it's actually a really high fish meal mix, which sort of goes against the written rules of fishing, what people will tell you is the situation. And I think like what you do, you've done there with black roach and caught a load of skimmers over it, but as well as that caught lots of roach, but you've put that with a fish meal mix. I think that sort of just goes to show that it's probably really underdone, because people are so obsessed with using just a fish meal mix, which aren't generally very active, when the activity, especially on deeper venues, is one of the most attractive properties of ground bait, basically.
Yeah.
And I think by having bits popping up and moving up into higher levels in the water, especially like you say, Patzel, it could be 12 foot. Might be the Gloucester Canal, where I know for a fact that long line, it could be 15 foot, but you want to catch fish on the bottom. Usually I would use F1 Dark and Thatchers, but I know that really I want some activity because I want the fish don't live on the bottom. They might live mid-water, they might live 2/3 of the way down.
Yeah.
So I want bits coming up to that point to drag them down again. And I think unless they happen to, I think eventually they find your mix and a stronger mix, they will sort of sniff it out as such. If they're swimming past like they do, and they see bits fizzing off the bottom, I think that's what then makes them go down. And I think things like fluoro rocks are a great thing for that, because those brighter specks, I think if a fish is passing over the top and it catches their eyes, that's what then draws them down to the bottom. I think that's why certain additives are so good, because it's just more attraction, which helps the fish find your bait quicker.
Yeah, I think it's like them red flexes in it as well.
Yeah.
But like, it's really interesting when you start thinking about it. It's more than grabbing the bag and going, oh yeah, that says coriander on it and hemp, so I'll just use that.
Yeah.
Because it is a minefield, but I've enjoyed doing it because, like you say, when you do matches, you don't think like that. You just think, right, I know that works, I'm going with that. But when you got a chance to mess around and feed it in different ways, it's nice.
Yeah, and if Stephen, it was Paul actually, Paul Davis. If you were to ask me now one of the mixes I'm going to be using, I know for a fact that I'll be mixing Fishmeal mixes with one of our non-Fishmeal mixes, Sweet Skimmer, one of the new ones. That one here is going to be me, and I will. Yeah, eating it all. I've had to take the krill and squid out his way because he had his head in it again. So Sweet Skimmer, it's loads of biscuit, obviously breadcrumbs, some maize meal, that sort of thing, and a real sweet caramel flavour. And I'll be adding that to some F1 Dark or some Thatchers or a combination of all of them, especially on the Gloucester Canal, just because I know that I want sort of to find that balance of those ingredients which I know that all sort of natural venue species love, the biscuit, the bread, that sort of thing, but then adding that fish meal element to it, because then it just gives me that better chance of catching some bigger fish. Sometimes you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, like on a natural venue. Sometimes it's a bit foolish to just go down the fish meal route because you might end up catching nothing. But if I can find a bit of a balance by mixing the couple together, I think that's going to be the route forward. Andrew Pearson, do you use the same float for the mudline and edge line?
The depth, yeah, well, yeah, it will be. Yeah. So the depth is key with your float. So say I like to use an F1 pellet when it's 18 inches and above, to say 18 inches to say 4 or 5 foot and 6 foot maybe, and then anything else, I just use a 4x14 carp sheller, just because you can get them 5 number 8s on, and that's just nice and solid, nice and bulk. I think last thing you want is a fish coming in and moving your rig. You just want it nice and solid, don't you? Come in, pick your bait up, get your shot, ding, you're done there. So anything less than 18 inches, use a carp sheller, 4x14. If on your mudlines, and then anything else, just F1 pellet, 4x12, and then if you go to like 3 foot, 4x14.
Jake, if you're Cheltenham, have you ever fished Court Farm between Worcester and Malvern? And if so, what ground bait would you? I have. Court Farm is actually, I first went there about 5 or 6 years ago when the lad first ever dug it. It's a brilliant venue, Matty. If you've not been, it's so good. It's just, he's basically got carp in there and very little else. So you can go in the winter and fish whatever bait you want, and you'll just catch carp. Nice. It's absolutely solid. There are some big rudd and stuff like that in there, but it's mainly a carp fishing. Every fish in there is just pristine. It all depends. It's because it's carpy and you can get away with whatever. You just want a match method mix, a power scope X, something like that, something simple. You don't need to you don't need to necessarily fill it in, because you just need to set a trap, because the fish are all now, they're all like 2 to 4 pound, maybe something like that. You just want, and it would be in the margins as well, because out in open water, it's a little bit too deep to be feeding ground bait. Although you can, you could end up with problems with foul hookers, that sort of thing. I'd be using a match method mix, maybe even a bit of match method mix with a bit of chunky fish in the margins. But it's a brilliant venue, Court Farm. In fact, there's a video with myself and Des Ship there. I was filming, Des Ship was fishing at Court Farm. It's on our Sonu channel. When's the new... Craig has asked, when's the new Preston hoodie out?
Does my head in, honestly.
He's like a magpie, isn't he?
Well, this is how bad it is. We walked at Weston the other day. He was on my box, and Darren walked round and thought he was me.
Really?
I've been Preston that much. Yeah, he loves it.
He's a good lad.
Loves it MC, doesn't he?
Any perch?
No, he's growing out of them. He's growing out of them waterproof seals now.
Oh, is he?
Mini eggs. He loves them.
All right. John Wood, thanks, Matt. I am at Tunnelbarn Farm in September for 2 weeks. Fingers crossed. So match method mix and Super Crush Expander is the one. And pellet shallow. It's usually casters shallow.
Yeah,
really.
go with some live baits, just because pellet. I've never fished pellet shallow with tunnel, to be honest.
Ground baits and pellets in shallower water, and then in open water or down the middle is where you feed your live baits.
Yeah.
Stan Brown, I fish a large lake that's only got carp. You can only catch them on paste or feeder. I've tried pellet shallow and on the deck. Same with meat and maggot. Anything else I could try?
Do you come in the edge? That's what. Did you say that or not?
Large lake, it's only got carp. You can only catch them on paste or feeder. I've
So
tried.
it sounds like it's not loads, because obviously I always tend to think paste is like a good one to just target fish that single fish in it. You know what I mean? You put a bit of better bait, and then you've got your big blob in the middle. So when you got your big blob, it'll come in for that. But probably try. It depends where you're catching on your paste. If you're catching on your paste on a short pole, you might be able to catch on hard 6mm pellets. That's a really good way of doing it. Or if you catch them on paste and a feeder as well, just keep catching them. Well, just have a look if everyone else is catching on, see if they're catching on a few things, but have a little look down your margin and then try and see if you can catch on pellets on the short pole if that's where you're catching on your paste. But if there's not many fish there, just feed. Try to go for like the Fin Perfect 6mm and 8mm. Don't feed loads of 4s and micros, because there's too many particles. You just want the fish to come in and pick up your single bits of bait. So like you either want 10 6mm or 4 or 5 8mm, just so it's selective.
Yeah. Sounds like it's a bit of a trap setting venue.
Yeah, you don't want
you don't want loads of bait all over the place. You want to sort of like set yourself a little trap with a small amount of feed and present your bait as accurately.
Yeah. So just like a few pellets, 6mm or 8mm, just trickle them in, and then if you don't get a bite, say move. Do you know what I mean? Just sound like that place. If it's a paste and feeder, it's just like the feeder is literally like you're going in. It's like a single bit, isn't it? Just so you're setting your trap, like you said, you get your bite, and then away you go. But yeah, either feed some ground bait in the edge, but like I said, just try and feed a really strong mix, just fish mealy, so they just try and scent and home in on it. So I'd have a go at.
Sounds good. Paul Davis, thanks guys. Just on my way to the tackle shop for my Thatchers and So Natural. I can feel a second mortgage coming up. Hopefully, I think they probably will have Sweet Skimmer in now. But yeah, definitely give that a go. There's no reason whatsoever why you can't mix those two mixes together, a natural and a fish meal mix.
It's a dangerous game, the old Friday afternoon tackle shop trip, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, and I used to always joke because I'd go into a tackle shop and like it was impossible. I could go in there for one thing, and it was like impossible for me to not spend 50 quid. Like you just end, I'll grab that.
We used to go to I used to go to D-side tackle years ago with Colin, and I think it's clever what I used to do. Is just leave you. You never used to ask you for ages. You just been in there, right? I'll have a bag of that. And then because you're in there waiting, it's like, oh, we'll have that as well. No, you just buy so much.
Yeah.
So if you got the tackle shops, leave them. They'll just mooch around. You can't stop buying.
Iggy has said, do you think different coloured bait bands for different coloured pellets, bandams or wafters would make any difference to bait presentation or not?
Not to your presentation. I don't think it makes a difference. I just think they see the colour and they just, like you said, they go down the mouths and pick it up. I don't think they're expecting the band around the middle. They must associate that's what it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I know people dye some bands for casters, but
yeah, I think if they're looking at it that intensely, they're clever animal. Like, as much as we probably don't give them enough credit, if they know that there's a band on there regardless, they're looking at your bait that closely to notice anything or not notice a band, then they won't touch your bait.
It's like when Joe did that underwater thing on the clay pit, and like there was a ball of F1s come up, my pellet just went through the middle.
It's the last one every time.
Yeah, it's just like
yeah.
I just think they must know that the weight of it or something. That's what they must know. Or when they mouth it, they can mouth it and realise and spit it before they hook themselves. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they expect it like that. I don't think they have time to most of the time.
And I think a lot of the time with a method feeder, I don't think they're necessarily always looking at your hook bait. They're slurping up what's there. And the reason wafters are very good when it's hard, I always think a sinker's better when it's really good and the fish are like attacking your feeder, because your sinker will sit on the top and they're sort of picking it out and they're eating everything that's there. I always think a wafter's better when it's harder and they're sort of like a bit wary and they're sort of slurping up around your thing. And I think because the wafter's sort of weightless as such, because it's counterbalanced with your hook, I think they slurp up a little bit away from it and it just sort of like gets slurped up into the mouth at the same time. Someone's actually asked whether sinker or wafter, and that's my sort of take on it. I think if it's really, really good, a sinker's better, because it'll stay put and it won't be sort of getting moved around your peg. Whereas a wafter, when it's hard, I think you want it to do that. I think one fish in your peg, and you want it just to get accidentally slurped up as such.
Yeah.
Nigel Marples, hi guys, great vid. What green ground bait would you recommend to mix with match method for skimmers and tench on natural venue that sees lots of fish meal?
Thatcher's green. that. That's the one.
But
I think that would be massive. That.
Yeah.
I never really fish with green ground baits, because I just go down that route. Like I said, I'm unsure. But when I seen that come out, and I thought Thatcher's green, super sweet. When you look at the bottom, they're always like murky, that colour, aren't they? The murky, darky green colour, and I just think it just blends in. So that's what I'll be changing my Thatcher's to green, to my super sweet as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You got Thatcher's green is that sort of like, it's like a very, very dark green sort of colour. It's just a really nice sort of like historically green ground baits. That's like I just think that is absolutely bang on as a green.
Yeah.
The other option would be green Fishmeal. So relatively similar. Thatcher's has a few different extra ingredients in there, but green Fishmeal is also a very strong Fishmeal mix. It's more of a, if you imagine that's like a dark green ground bait. Green Fishmeal is it's hard to say, in it just like a green Fishmeal. Yeah, so they're your two options really, I would say. One of the pros, but Matty's gone with Thatcher's green, so let's go with that one.
Yeah, that I just think when it come out, and I know like there's people in Sonubaits that use it. I think is it Buck Welder and Gareth Lambert, they catch so many skimmers.
Yeah.
Like that, they catch so much on that sort of waters. And I just think I always see, I think that Gareth uses 50-50, doesn't he? That was the green one.
And he uses Super Crush green a lot as well.
Yeah, so it's like you are copying, but then you put it into your fishing as well. Do you know what I mean? Because if they're catching on it, they're obviously brilliant anglers, but it's giving them edge, so you just change your mix to it, which I'm going to, obviously, I will experiment a lot more, because I think I'm getting that thing now where I'm just getting too into it.
tell you what, like as an angler, or a feeder angler in particular, Gaz Lambert catches more skimmers and bream than I've seen anybody over the last year. He's ridiculous how good he is, and whenever it's a bream venue, his mix is always green. So
it's always on the socials, isn't it? I always see that classic picture of the tub, the bucket, and then I see the two pictures, and I'm just like, he catches loads. It's just like...
so many fish. Such a good angler, but he's now getting rewarded. He's getting taken with the England feeder team, and fair play to him. So. He's awesome. He's just one of them anglers that just wherever he goes just seems to catch an absolute boatload. John Wood says, I was there last year fishing 4 mil pellet shallow and I did great. Won a few opens too. Boys on house and top pools. Fair play, John. It definitely does work at tunnel fishing pellet shallow. And if you're winning doing that, stick at it.
Should have kept it quiet. You'd have had that to himself. Yeah. Be up there now fishing. I just think it's that thing again. When I go on the matches that I go on, the qualifiers, there's 80 people and they're all fishing. They will all be fishing maggots and casters.
Yeah.
I know you probably might get an advantage fishing pellets, but there's a few smaller fish. There's an odd hiding there. Just don't get me wrong. You catch on it. It might be a spell this year. It changes to it, but I've always known that a lot of F1 style lakes is always going to be more natural baits over pellets, which is mad because it used to be the opposite years ago, didn't it?
Yeah.
It used to be more pellet fishing and stuff like that. Like Lindome was always 4 mil shallow, Western was always 4 mil shallow. And now, I think because the sailfish are so big, I think you can catch 25, 30 pounds of them without even trying, say, just in between. So it's a massive advantage. But if you're catching on them, just keep catching. Don't change. There's the beauty about fishing that there's no set rules. I can't say to you, right, you can only fish that ground because that works. But but I put a bit of this in and a bit of that in and I caught more. It's like, it's the beauty of it. It's just your confidence as well of what you've got. But then if you're unsure, you can get a bit of guidance. That's what I love about it, really.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, he bet he bashes up now on that.
I hope John draws next year.
He will. He bash me on pellet shallow, and I'm back on this saying you need to fish pellets.
Robert Driscoll, as it's early spring, what would you suggest, pellets or ground bait in a feeder on a small commercial fishery?
That all depends on how well the fish are feeding and how much attraction you want. So, if to start with, I'd look. What I like to do when I'm fishing the feeder is have my ground bait and my pellets in one tub, and have a separate tub for like a mixing. So do you know what I mean? Like a mixing tub. So if I think, right, I want to fish, to start off with, want to fish 50-50 with pellets and ground bait, I'll just pick 2 handfuls up or measure them out if you want to be dead precise. Start off with that, chuck it in and think, right, can I get away with feeding more pellets? So you know what I mean? When you run out of that, if you think you need to feed more pellets, you can put two pellets into one ground bait, or you feel like there's a few skimmers and there's not enough attraction, say, just put more ground bait in, just mix it up. So it's like a blueprint, isn't it? Like you take it, you've got your 2 tubs, so you've got your blueprint. You can either feed 50-50, 2-1, all ground bait, all pellets. But if it's about trial and error, every day is different, isn't it? I bet if me and you went to the same venue tomorrow, after today, say we went fishing,
it'd
be something different. There'd be always something different. You'd have to catch on a red, like little waft abandon, and I've caught on a yellow one the day after, and it's just little things. Sometimes you might fish 50-50, sometimes you might fish all pellets, all ground bait, stuff like that. So just keep mixing it up, but then try and make a little diary of it if you go. Do you know what I mean? Say if you went carp on a feeder carp and you like middle of March, early spring, and like last year, you caught 50-50. So it's a good starting point instead of guessing. Do you know what I mean? Instead of starting on ground bait, but then pellets is the best option. You've got to work your way through it. So if you start in the middle, you can verse that way. I think when they're really feeding well, pellets are the better option, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because they get their heads down proper and just pick out your up bait a little bit quicker. But when you want some ground bait, just to draw them in and they start eating it that way.
I think it's a bit like when you're pole fishing. The bigger the particle you can feed, the cleaner your bites will tend to be. So like as you get, if you're fishing for carp, you wouldn't necessarily feed micros in deep water. You might feed 4s or 6 mil pellets. But the smaller the pellet or the particle that you feed in, the more attractive it is to those fish. So if you're not getting bites, that's when more ground bait may be more effective, because it's very attractive, and that those smaller particles will draw fish in. Whereas if you're getting loads of bites, you might want to increase it. So it'll be that you go more pellets rather than ground bait. Same with pole fishing. If you're getting loads of bites, if you can get away with feeding just a few, very few 6 mil pellets, it's brilliant because you can just set a small trap and catch those fish. Whereas if you're not getting bites, you might want to loose feed a few 4 mils, put a little nugget of micros in, because that'll draw those fish into your peg a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I was trying to get at that, but I went a long way around it.
No, I could see where you were going. I was just, that's fine.
I've really got to go off on a tangent. Can't stop talking now.
Robert Pickard says, how would you approach a predominantly carp commercial in spring? No venues near me with any F1s. Any advice?
The carp are a bit dormant still, aren't they, this time of year? So you're not going to be fishing for masses of them. You're going to be fishing, say, 80 to 100 pound maybe, depending on when we get back out. But
that's a decent day's fishing, that, Matt.
Yeah. Well, say you're trying to catch a few carp. I think softly approach is the best. Like you said there, tap a few 6 mils in. Just a few. Do you know what I mean? Like 5 or 6. And if you don't get any bites, try some 4 mils. And if you can't get any bites on that, try some micro pellets and an expander just to start off with. So it depends how big the carp are as well. If they're massive, then hard pellets are probably a bit better. But if you're fishing for like little stocky carp, £1 to £3, then probably little balls of micros and expanders work really well in the spring, doesn't it?
Yeah. Stuff
like that. So yeah, I'd look to take your time getting into your session, really. Don't go mixing a 2 kilo bag of chunky fish and lobbing it in the edge, because you're not going to catch. But I'm scared to say you're not going to catch now, because I'll be on.
No, I know exactly what you mean. It's all about feeling your way into those sorts of sessions at this time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, just feel your way in. To say, you can always change it, can't you? That's what the beauty of fishing. If you've gone in on expanders and are feeding 2 mil pellets, you've gone in, you've caught some skimmers, not really caught any carp, but then you go in with our pellets and you stop catching skimmers and you catch a few more carp, then you've got best of both worlds. If you start, where you've started, then if you go back the next week, you think, right, well, last week I didn't catch on expanders very well, so you go in on 6 mils and you catch like that. Just that working it. Dead easy, really.
Yep. John Woods called you out. Matt, come down to Tunnel in September if you're not busy. I'd love a head-to-head challenge.
Yeah, I'll film it. Go on.
It'll be good for your channel. Try and arrange that.
Now to message me on Instagram and Facebook, we'll have
it. That'd be good.
He's on it, John, today, isn't
he? Yeah. Rob Driscoll, something to try. Sound advice. Cheers, fella. Loving these discussions. Rob Pickard, I would be very happy with £80. Thanks for the advice. Right. Brian Shepherd, hi. When are the new products in the shops? They're sort of trickling in now, Brian. So we started sending them out as of last week. I've been tagged in a few shops now on Instagram and stuff saying that it's arrived. So, and I'm pretty certain if you search, if you're doing it online at the minute, you'll probably find it. You'll probably find that a lot of shops have got it in now. There are still shops that aren't open yet as well with lockdown. I think it's April before shop like retail's open fully, and April the 12th. So yeah, some shops I'm guessing are waiting until they're going to be open, that sort of thing, as some aren't doing click and collect. But yeah, have a look out, because some shops definitely have it in stock now. Grim Corona, Jake, would that Thatcher's green make a good paste? It would. It's got plenty of oils in there. I personally, if I was going to make a paste, I'd be using, out of one of those ground baits in that range, I'd be looking at green Fishmeal, or even meaty salmon. Probably green Fishmeal if I wanted a green paste. There are a few ingredients in Thatcher's green that aren't quite as as bindy as such, and you want a mix that's going to bind well and stay as a paste and not break down too quickly. So I'd probably be looking at green Fishmeal. Yeah, right. So I'm pretty certain that's the end of the questions, unless you want to get any quick ones in there. Dave Berry said 50-50 green for the paste. He loves it. So pretty certain we're nearing the 2-hour mark, Matty. I'm sure you've got things to be getting on with this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm shut up, have I?
No, I'm sure you've answered everyone's questions there. If we've missed any, as always, just send us a message directly to Matty on his Instagram or Facebook, or to the Sonubaits page, and we'll try and get a written answer over to you. Thank you, everybody, for listening and sending your questions in. As always, we'll be putting this up as a podcast, so you'll be able to find it on Spotify. Last week's episode with Jordan will also go on at the same time. I've just been getting it set up so that we can add more hours worth of podcast, because Dez's went on a little bit longer, so I used up all my allowance in the one. So yeah, so if you want to listen to it whilst you're in the car, you can do that through Spotify. So thanks for joining us, and thanks, Matty.
No, cheers, enjoyed it. Thank you.